First item will be adoption of the agenda. We have one slight variation, and that is the economic development delegation needs to be on first because they have another engagement at 6 o'clock. So if we could move that, with that change, that'd be great.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor? Motion's carried. So I welcome Ian Whitehead, President of Economic Development, and I know John and Lara are here. And Jeff Krantz. All right, Ian, welcome, and you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Members of Council, Ian Whitehead with Economic Development. This is the Valley for a little over 20 years now, and took this volunteer assignment on a couple of years ago, and it's been most enjoyable so far. We just completed, as most of you are aware, I'm sure you're all aware, a 5-year strategic plan update for the society as a whole, and one component of that was the Made in Comox Economic Development Plan, which Lara and Jeff are going to speak to in some detail. I just want to make a couple of quick comments initially. I hope they're going to highlight specific focus areas and particularly action items that the CBED staff intend to undertake on behalf of the town in execution of this plan. That said, we want to remain open to town council ongoing to assist where we can, where needed and requested, regarding any new focus areas, initiatives that the town feels we ought to direct our attention toward. In other words, I want to remain flexible and accepting of change if it is necessary. 3 areas of focus that are of concern to me, although there are a couple of others that I'm sure Lara and Jeff will speak to. One is the healthcare focus. What is going to be done with the existing hospital? We have been talking to the hospital board, and perhaps we can expand on that a little bit. How can we help with the strategy around this, the changing in healthcare provisions in the Valley? What can we do specifically? The land development impact analysis that I think Ken might speak to is quite an interesting initiative. And of course the downtown vitality, the local area enhancement component. My own company was involved in some downtown revite work. It's probably a decade ago now, and hope to help to continue on that vein. But lastly, what I wanted to say was, what can CBED staff do that the town staff can't do or ought not do, such as assisting with grant applications. And I want to make sure, under my mandate as president of CBED, that that there's closer ties, frankly, between the two groups of staff, that there's better transparency, more regular communication, that kind of thing. So on that, as a preamble, I invite, where are we? Lara? Jeff.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Mayor and Council and staff for seeing this. Okay. Just going to go through here.
Do you have to point out the...
No, that's radio frequency. So if the batteries are working, it doesn't matter which direction you point.
Can somebody just click it forward?
Just 2 pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Briefly, Ian went over a lot of what the plan entails and the process, but essentially the plan is a priority of the overall regional economic development plan, and the sub-plan was established with our economic development services agreement. It incorporates a lot of the priorities of the town strategic plan and OCP, which we've also included in the appendices of the plan. Consultation is noted there. What's not noted on there, this was specific to the town of Comox, but what's not noted on there is we did some intensive literature review of regional plans, industry plans. We did a business survey to businesses in Comox as well as in the Comox Valley. We did a client satisfaction survey through the clients that we see through our business, or through our office at certain businesses and expand businesses. And we also did a number of sessions with various industry stakeholders and association groups. part of any economic development strategy is an economic analysis. If you have the report in front of you, page 3 of the report is where that begins, and it's used to highlight advantages, opportunities, and provide a basis for and evidence to support what strategic programs and activities we've derived and mentioned in the plan. And an easy example of that is with health services and the senior older demographic. This information also aids us and feeds into our demographic profile work, which we use day-to-day in business development and attraction activities, and obviously flows into through these strategic plan action items. There are 11 programs, many activities related to these programs in the Comox plan, and this is a 5-year plan. We pulled a few key highlights out here, which we will go over briefly, but they are mentioned in detail within the documentation there. The Land Development Impact Analysis Program, I pulled out one, the site identification, investment, facilitation, development, expansion, strategic activity there, as it is a fundamental activity for an economic development office. So working with interested partners, pulling together related information and statistics, and facilitating the business development process. For example, this relates directly to our health services support program, where a tactic in there is to package and promote the hospital site. It also follows up this strategic action to some of the comments we heard, specifically with the Comox Shaping the Future BIA session. One of the top response to a long-term initiative was in redevelopment and infill development, which we got from that session. Second strategic activity noted there is something new. Developing a standardized economic impact and financial impact analysis model to use as part of the development process. So you get a full picture, full understanding of what the impact is. So that includes things like direct impact, induced impact, and indirect impact of the development. We're talking about the amount of investment as well as jobs, and also the future revenue that is potentially there for a municipality. Next one up there, I'm going to let Lara speak.
Welcome, Lara.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. It's a pleasure to be here. Just continuing along with some of the program highlights, the air service program obviously is a clear and obvious thing because of the importance to the airport, not only to the town but to the entire region. The plan outlines how important it is to continue to try to not only support the attraction of new airline routes and new capacity in the services that the airlines are providing to the region, but also the importance of trying to continue to grow the amount of passengers that they have going through what is at this point the largest gateway in the Comox Valley. One of the initiatives that I wanted to speak to that highlights the effort that's occurring through this program is ongoing right now. It's called Go Vancouver Island. It's a multimedia campaign targeted to the Alberta market that's being led and developed by Tourism Vancouver Island, which is the island destination marketing organization, or of course the regional destination marketing organization. It's obviously a key market, and we've partnered with the Comox Valley Airport to be a participant in that. It's a $500,000 campaign. So it was critical that the Comox Valley be involved with that. And the key messaging for us in that particular campaign was the fact that you can fly direct to us, and that's a strategic advantage of ours. And so we've had this is the third year that we've partnered with the airport in doing this. They, of course, work with WestJet to ensure that all the messaging is approved, and at this point we've seen about 129% increase in Alberta visitors to our website compared to last year. So it's been a significant campaign. It started in April and will go until June. But it highlights a particular activity that will help to continue to reinforce that the airport and Comox is a major gateway and access not only for the region here, but for the whole North Central Island. Thanks, Don. The next program is the Tourism, Arts, Culture, and Heritage program, and it's as important as it is to market the destination. You have to have product of course, that people want to come and experience. And when we had the session with the BIA, one of the clearer things that we heard back was that they felt very strongly that the town was attractive and had the amenities, but it needed more festivals and events, other things to help attract people to the region. So this program acknowledges the fact that you have to continually develop product that you can go out and market. A great example of that is ongoing as well right now is around the BC Shellfish Festival. As you know, it's in its 7th year this year. And we have come in behind them with their support to outreach to the community to try to expand it to being a 10-day festival, working with wineries, working with harbor charter companies, working with restaurants to create more events to fill up those 10 days so that we can then in turn go out and market it aggressively to try to get people to come. So not only for the weekend, which has always been really important to the town, of course, but to expand it to a 10-day long festival. We have 3 restaurants, for example, in Comox are participating, the Blackfin, Martins, Bistro, and Avenue. And a new business has just come on board, and they're offering shellfish tours, which is the Comox Harbor Charters, which are, of course, is based right in the harbor here. This is a great example, again, of creating product, going out and marketing it, and driving people into the town. At this point, again, we've seen about a 68% increase to the website since May of last year as well. So it's a really encouraging results. And we have a poster here if you're interested in seeing some of the activities that are occurring. Thank you.
Are there any further speakers at this point? Seeing none, then questions for any of the presenters or on the plan itself? Go ahead, Ken.
I'll go if somebody else wants to. So just a couple of questions, and I guess I'm not sure who I'm going to direct these to, maybe John sitting in the back or whoever can answer them, but on the economic impact analysis program, the intention would be that you would become a referral agent, and when we got a major project, say something like the hotel down here, we would refer, you guys would give us an impact statement on the economics of that.
Yeah,
Is that how you see that working?
that's one. Yeah, absolutely one option. I think one of the pieces of feedback that we've had from across this municipality and businesses that operate here, but also regionally as well, is the notion that there could be additional information or additional detail done with respect to this economic impact statement. There's references to the need of this in OCPs and RGSs, and yet I'm not so certain our office and our society is providing information that we could provide. So I think one of the options going forward is to look at working with the finance staff, particularly here in Comox, to see if there's additional information that we could provide or monitoring that could be done to help calculate some of these things for development permits as they come forward.
Okay.
So it's an option for us together to consider.
So, not coincidentally perhaps, but we have been doing some financial impact studies. So there's one on the agenda tonight at page 57, which is talking about taxes and infrastructure. But you're saying this would be perhaps broader than that?
Yeah, I think you can get into a little bit more detail. I think, actually, I should say the work that has come out at the town on this area has been really, really good. And I think it's been very effective in adding not any more important than anything else, but another dimension to the discussion around the particular developments that are in question. So.
The other thing was with a downtown incentive program to get maybe some more density and people building a little faster in our downtown core. I know our BIA is really concerned about the way our street is going, and they're doing their best, but really, we need to get some more people living in our core to make that work. I know other communities, such as Maple Ridge and Langford and other places, are doing downtown incentive programs where they give you, in Maple Ridge, I know they give you a 3-year time frame, and then they gave you tax holidays and other things. Would it be, I would like to see our staff work with your staff to develop a program for us that may work. That's a possibility that we could look into.
Absolutely. I think from the planning perspective, defer to your staff, because there's excellent expertise there in whether these types of programs work or don't work. It's not for us at the Economic Development Society to say that one is better than the other, or that they are, in fact, council's first priority. However, there's evidence, and and I think there's good evidence that demonstrates that the type of development that council wishes to see in a certain area can be perhaps enhanced, encouraged, and certainly brought forward on a more rapid pace if in fact these programs are put in place. And there's lots of varieties. Some is very simple that I know all of us have seen, such as Main Street level programs or facade improvement programs, right through into fairly intensive significant development incentives, if you will. So I think the Maple Ridge example was one. It's not in any way the only one, or even the best one.
Yeah.
So these things do exist, and it did come out in the consultation and discussions, and we'd be happy to explore them in further detail as we go forward.
Yeah, the Maple Ridge one is interesting, and it doesn't start consenting until you're over 6 stories, so we'd have to scale it
We'd have to
back.
scale it back. That's why we consulted. So my other question then would be for the mayor, and I would ask how we would get that process started, so we would get our staff talking to their staff to do that. Is a motion required, or?
Not at this time, no. We have a presentation on the economic development plan, and staff would bring forward recommendations as part of that. I mean, as part of our strategic plan, we'll presumably adopt elements of it as we proceed. And there are action items within that plan on a short, medium, and long-term basis. So, CAO, anything further on that?
No, that about sums it up.
Okay. So we would be looking for a made for Comox plan that would fit. Is that?
Well, this is the Made for Comox plan. The implementation of it is similar to the implementation of OCP. There's action items in there.
Right.
And council's adoption of that plan would be done with that in mind. So specific deadlines and so on, we'll leave that with staff as they bring forward.
Yeah, fair enough. But because it's in this plan, that would then become.
I think we have
Something
to
we
have
would see
probably a
happen.
motion at some point in the near future to adopt the plan.
Okay.
This is a presentation of it, so staff would bring it back to us at an upcoming meeting, and then we adopt it and have further discussion on detailed elements of it.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
All right, Hugh, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, just 2 quick points. So first of all, the forum that you held there, I attended the forum, and I'm really pleased to see that was incorporated there. I thought that was great, and the advice would be is to do that more often, because there were some tremendous ideas generated. So kudos to you for including some of that in the report. Secondly, the air carrier focus, I couldn't agree more. I think people in the valley here know the value of us getting that airport, and how it's helped the valley here. I'm concerned a bit about WestJet. They're now flying out in Nanaimo as well. And I'm wondering about if you could comment on the public relations your group does with WestJet and other airline carriers about these type of activities, and how we're promoting tourism, business, and other things to the valley. Just Reader's Digest, quick comment on that.
Good. Well, certainly. Thank you for the comments around the public open house. We did do that. It's one of the first times we've done that at the Society, so I appreciate the comments and for attending. I think it went well. The Airport Commission, of course, takes lead on activities related to the airport, and certainly in their relationships with the airlines directly. And they have a very robust program of that relationship building and maintaining close ties to the airlines that they could speak to. We come in support of that as it relates to CDAC's business, and we work with Tourism Vancouver Island, as Lars mentioned earlier today, and other agencies to really focus in on marketing in areas that should generate additional seat and passenger traffic for the airlines. And I think that's really the most important thing that we can be doing as a community. From a Comox specific perspective, it's also important to remember the harbor and the good work that's going on there as a gateway, not just an air gateway, marine gateway as well. And I think there's quite a bit of work that has gone on and that is continuing to go on to support the various activities there.
Okay, thank you. Barbara, I think you had your hand up.
My question was around implementation too. I do appreciate that you've got the measurable outcomes, and I think that's a very good place to move from idea to how well we're doing. And I noticed that CVEDS is a lead agency in many of those, so I'm just curious about how this will work out. Do you see that you will be branching into a lot of different areas of work, or do you see that some of these lead areas are parts of what you're already doing?
I think two parts. Good question. Two parts to that. The first part is that the town plan is a part of, from our perspective, a regional plan, and was designed that way to encourage greater transparency between the effort of the society and how that impacts Comox specifically. And I think that the plan has done that. So a lot of our specific activities that we're doing for the town are already ongoing. The specific tactics in this plan can be brought forward over the course of a 5-year period with the town and in consultation with the town and at the direction of the town. And I think what's most important is that this is a draft plan until such time council decides to ratify it. And I think we can collectively look at some of the most important priorities for the town and allocate our time and resources to helping the town fulfill those resources. Probably the most beneficial part of the work from my perspective has been the alignment of the activities of the society to the OCP here in the town, the strategic plan of the town, and some of these processes that have been going on here, and that's been done as well. So I think we can respond quicker now with a plan like this to town requests. I think we can engage with perhaps on a more significant level with town staff as a result of the effort that's gone through. And most importantly, we can work together to pick specific tactics, either laid out, some are laid out in more detail here, or others on an annual basis that are important priorities for the town. So I think it's a good match moving forward.
Thanks. Patty?
Thank you. Thank you all. What an amazing document and a lot of work there, and I think it'll do some good, really good stuff for our town. On the health services side, I just have to share with you that I am also a member of St. Joseph Hospital Board, and so when I looked at your strategic action plans there, I just felt that I have to share with you that the board, with the blessing of the bishop, he does the blessing. He has given us the approval to move ahead to seek a future for St. Joe's with healthcare being the basis to that. So at this time, the board is gathering a task force of stakeholders, and when we shared this with some of the board members, they were all very excited about this, seeing that your thoughts were very much aligned, and just the idea that absolutely we've begun some of this work, but we would absolutely look forward to working together. So I just share that.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. There's been an interesting process underway there, and it was very convenient that certain public presentations being done by staff at St. Joe's made it into our review, and some communications with them as well, so that we could at least position the plan to speak to that collaborative effect between the town itself, the board, agencies such as ours and others in the community, and looking at what the future of that site will be.
Ken, one more?
Yeah, I'd just like to acknowledge, too, that through the 5-year plan that we put together at CVEDS, and a lot of the work has centered around trying to have better relationships with the other stakeholders and other people that we deal with, and so there's been an awful lot of effort and thought put into it, just as you were just saying. So, I think some acknowledgement, and I think it's been really good work that's been done in that area where we're trying to be more open and more engaged with the other people. So hopefully this is the start of some good things, or the continuing start of good continuation.
Any further questions? Thank you, John, Lara, Ian, and Jeff for your presentations. I know you got to get going. And I know staff will be working with you. In fact, they've already worked with you on earlier drafts of this plan. And as has been noted here tonight, there's many other stakeholders involved in the private sector. Of course, CVAC, St. Joe's, and the BIA, of course, are interested participants. So it's a multifaceted approach, and staff will bring it back to us for adoption, and then as we go, implementation. So thanks again.
Great. Thank you very much, and enjoy the BC Shellfish Festival.
Yes, thanks.
Have fun on your tour.
All right, we have next on the delegation list, Rachel Blaney from the Immigrant Welcome Center. Thank you for your patience, Rachel. And you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I'm just to nod, and somebody's going to change my slides. Thank you. So first of all, we just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on who we are and what we do in this region. So we're the Immigrant Welcome Center. What we do is we welcome and help settle all newcomers to the area. We work with a lot of permanent residents, as you can see. In the last year, we've served over 400 new people to the community, and we're really excited to see the numbers increasing. So the majority of them are permanent residents, with some people who are protected, so from a refugee. Individuals who have been selected in Canada to become a permanent resident, so they can come in through different venues in that way. So for example, some of them are Canadian Experience Class, which means they are international students that have become permanent residents of Canada. And the final category that we work with are living caregivers with work permit. Can I get the next slide? So just so you know, we have served immigrants from over 40 countries, and so we have a lot of different languages spoken in our community and a lot of different cultures. The top 3 countries are Vietnam, China, and Korea. We're also seeing a lot of people coming in from the U.S. That seems to be an emerging trend right now. And so we're very excited, but like I said, 40 different countries. So we deliver a lot of services to a lot of people with a lot of different life experience. So just wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that we do have secondary clients who are naturalized citizens. So that means people who were born in another country and became citizens of Canada. Refugee claimants, so people who have made a claim to be a refugee but have not been accepted at this point, and individuals in BC with a valid nomination certificate. So that's, for example, through the Provincial Nominee Program. So that means somebody has sponsored them, but they haven't got the proper paperwork in place yet. It's coming. The reason I just wanted to mention this group of folks separately is that in April of next year, 2014, the federal government will be repatriating funding for immigrant services. So many years the provincial government has been doing the money from a transfer from the federal government. Citizenship and Immigration Canada has identified that they really see immigration as a continuing growing thing in Canada, and they want to make sure that the services are comparable from one province to another. It's going to have a huge impact on these folks in particular because they'll no longer be eligible for services. So when you look at some of these particular groups, for example, naturalized citizens, this is a very small, it's only about 27% of the people we serve, the secondary clients. But naturalized citizens are often people who have not learned the language, but they've become citizens. Usually it's due to their age, so at a certain point you're old enough, I guess, at 55 to become a citizen of Canada, and you don't have to take the test. So the issue is they've often been working for many years, paying their taxes, doing everything they're supposed to do, but they made that choice instead of going to English classes, and so they definitely have particular barriers. So we do have some concern, and just wanted to let you know that there will be people in your community that may struggle because of the changes. And as you can see, 73% of our clients are secondary clients. So, no, that's wrong. It should be primary, so sorry, typo there. Changes. Just a little bit about what immigration class they're coming in. So, we have a lot of people coming in who are family class. That's been a long-term trend for the North Island. So family class people are usually people that just know people in the community, and that's how they come here. I just want to say that the family class that are coming in the last 5 years, we've really noticed a change. So they are coming in through that class, but they're highly educated folks most of the time with very good English skills. So we've definitely noticed a trend in that. What we are definitely seeing is a lot more people coming in who are skilled workers in the community. That's been a change in the last year. We've seen that increase dramatically, so we continue to see a lot of people with high levels of education. Just to let you know, we are helping a lot of those people leave this region, and that's been really hard for us because they're not having opportunities to find employment. So we've helped people move all over the country. It's something that we're very concerned about, and we're looking at activities that we can do in the community because we don't know if it's always about the skills that they have. We're concerned that it might be that employers don't know how to hire them. So what I really mean by that is they don't know how to check references in another country. They don't know how to look at credentials and understand what are they comparable to in Canada. And those are definitely some barriers that we're hearing from employers who are saying, what does this mean? That's a little bit beyond our capacity, but we're really reporting back to the ministry because we think that needs to be dealt with. Thank you. So I just wanted to talk briefly with you about a new project that we're doing that's been funded by the provincial government. The project will go up until March 31st, 2014. And what it really was looking at creating a community action plan. So we had some information from the job shop who did the Welcoming Communities projects prior to us, and they sent us out to talk to people who had already been a part of their process. And we just did a bit of a discussion with them, knowing that we would really have to come back to the communities and say, what are we missing? So some of the things that we're doing to get information about what are we missing is we're creating a cultural ambassadors program. We're doing an advertising campaign, and we're also going to be having an immigration roundtable. So what is the role of an ambassador? And I may repeat myself, and so the next slide might be nail and biology, but that's okay. But really what the role of an ambassador is, we're asking ambassadors to take some basic training so that they understand some of the information about immigrants and why they're coming to Canada, why they're finding the Comox Valley. And I have to tell you, in the last 6 years, the amount of permanent residents coming to the North Island has tripled. CIC has been shocked by the amount of people. So when I talk about our services, we do have an office in Courtenay. We're just on Cumberland Road, out by Putledge Veterinarian. Send all the immigrants there, please. But what we're really noticing is that people are going all the way from this area all the way down to Port Hardy. So we are serving a lot of people who are living in Port Alice, Santula, Port Hardy. It's amazing where people are getting. So really what the role of the ambassador is to understand that, to also understand some of the free online tools. So we have a lot of tools that people have put together in Canada that nobody really knows about. So it could be things like how to hire an immigrant, how to look at, how to check references in another country, how to create a more welcoming environment so more immigrants come. What are strategies that look at that market and how can we attract them to our businesses? So really, it's about going into service providers organizations. How do you create a welcoming environment so immigrants are coming to access the service? What might be some of the barriers to preventing that? Because what our role is really is to support immigrants in integrating in the community. So cultural ambassadors participate in 3 sessions to be trained in cultural competency and just some of the free online tools. They will approach organizations or work with their organizations. So we've actually had a couple of organizations come forward and want one of their staff to take the training so that that staff member can come into the organization and just provide the support. And to also be a reference, because some organizations have identified that sometimes immigrants come in or businesses come in and they want to have some answers about some things, and we want to give them the tools so they can start doing that work. So the advertising campaign is really about did you know? So one of the things that we express concern about is the fact that there is some misconceptions about immigrants and why they're coming, and we want to sort of have some conversation around that. So did you know, for example, that 54% of the immigrants in BC in 2010 have university or higher education? 85% of them arrive with official language ability. So often we think that they're all coming and they don't speak English. The majority of them do speak English or French fluently. 94,000 international students choose BC each year. So we're having a large immigrant population that are coming in many different ways. The last thing is the Immigrant Roundtable. The Immigrant Roundtable, we are really asking for this particular roundtable for management and leaders within organizations and groups to come and just talk about what we might want to look at in terms of immigration in our community. So it is on June the 25th. We have sent out invitations. We're really looking for representation, and it is in partnership with North Island College because they have an amazing international program, and so we partner with them a lot, and so that's where we'll be. Next slide, please. So just so you know, the draft agenda, we do a welcoming. We're going to give you an update on the community action plan, let you know what's been happening. We are going to actually have a few immigrants come in, probably 2 or 3, to just talk about what their experience has been in the region. We're going to do our best to have at least 2 people who are coming in different streams and potentially from the different communities within the valley here. And then what we really want to do is have the roundtable discussion where we'll identify 2 actions the Comox Valley needs to do to engage new immigrants. So we just want to hear, what do you think we're doing? What do you think we need to do? And how can we work collaboratively? One of the things I just want to say is this is important, because I know in Campbell River they've done some work with the city. And right now, Success, which is a large immigrant serving agency in the Lower Mainland, is actually training immigrants that are coming in with investment money. They have a significant amount of money. If you come in as an investor class, you have to have a lot more money than I will ever see in my lifetime. And business class. So these are people that are actively looking at investing or starting or buying a business. They're training them, and then they're bringing them on fam tours to 3 communities across the province, and Campbell River is one of them. Today, they got their first phone call. Somebody has just bought, an immigrant has just bought a new business that somebody was trying desperately to sell. And so they're excited to come and join the community. So when we come together as communities and say, what is it that we want to get? This is what some of those outcomes can be. BC is also one of the highest receiver of business and investment class immigrants. But I'll tell you where they're all staying. They're all staying in the Lower Mainland. So I think it's really progressive for communities to come together and say, what is our attraction strategy and how are we going to do some of that outreach? Because we definitely want to see more of those people coming here, because we have a lot to give them. So what we need from you, it would be fantastic if you had a participant from your city or region to take the Cultural Ambassadors training. If you have anyone in mind, somebody that's a champion within your community, if you want to send a staff member, it's just 2 meetings, or 3 meetings, and it's relatively short and succinct with a lot of support from our coordinator, which is Krista Ma, who's happily sitting there. Thank you, Krista. And then we want to have, we're having 2 meetings, so the participating, we would love to have people show up for those 2 meetings, the one that we're having in June and one in February for the Immigrant Roundtable discussion. It is just a starting point because we really need to know, because we don't know. We want to hear from you. We know what immigrants are telling us. We know who's coming to our door, but we definitely need to hear what your experiences are and what you're doing and what you think needs to happen within the community. I think that's it. So
Thank
this
you
is where
for
we
your presentation. Any questions from members of council? I know that the invitation for that first meeting on June 25th has been circulated, so if there's any member or members of council that wish to participate, just let Lo know at the town hall and she'll let you know.
Perfect.
Thanks. All right. James Taylor, Cycling Public Advisory Committee. You're next, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm James Taylor. I live in Comox. I provided volunteer support when the transportation plan was being developed for Comox. I'm currently the president of the Cycling Coalition, and I'm also a chair of the Cycling Public Advisory Committee that provides consultation on cycling, generally speaking, in all 3 communities. I'm here to ask you for some financial help for a coordinator's position, and I know that's going to be a really difficult proposition. I've already been warned about that by Barbara, but I thought I'd forge ahead anyways because I think that it will probably be of interest to you. I'd like to thank you, as a town of Comox, how progressive you've been in trying to help the cycling community. It really shows, and it's a stark comparison with what has happened in Courtney, so thank you very much. I'd also like to say that we do try to provide support back into the community. For example, our members started the Farm Cycle Tour and continue to man it. And that's really a good financial support for the community in terms of bringing in tourism and supporting local businesses and local farms. Now, the reason I'm here, I want to kind of tell this as a bit of a story so you understand why I'm talking to you about this. About 4 years ago, the Cycling Coalition started, and we started with bike rodeos, and we got 1 or 2 schools done a year at that point. Next slide, please. We tried to help kids understand the meaning of rules of the road, how to dress in a visible way, how to have a good attitude and good skills when it came to cycling. Thanks. Big change in this last 10 months. In this last 10 months, we've done 14 bike rodeos involving 1,200 children. I think there are only maybe 2 schools we haven't covered yet, and we eventually will. There are normally 14 instructors per event, so it's a pretty high volunteer turnout. We've done 137 adults who are adult courses, and about 200 volunteering events where people have volunteered individually for these kinds of activities. The big difference was we had a paid coordinator for our program. We applied for a federal grant, we got it, and it has really, really moved us ahead. And it got us thinking that what does it take to really make instrumental changes? And our paid coordinator made a huge impact on that. Next slide, please. So we did some soul searching. We were saying to ourselves, why is it that we're doing what we're doing? Why are we providing, what is our reason for being in this community? And these are the 4 major reasons. And the 5th one was actually primarily to target the grant money, which is the Seniors New Horizons grant. But the first 4 we're really quite committed to. As we were doing that, we became aware of a really well-organized initiative that began in Ontario through the universities, and it was called School Travel Planning. The version of it that we see in British Columbia is called the HASTE program. Next slide, please. And the HASTE program is kind of a hard-to-remember acronym, but it has to do with getting kids to travel to school under their own power, be it walking, biking, those kinds of things. Next slide, please. HASTE is a partnership across these 5 different stakeholders. Thank you. And there are a variety of different outreaches or tentacles that they have out in the community. Next slide, please. Now, I think you might find this interesting. We've been attending stakeholders meetings on transportation, the new transportation plan for Courtenay. And this is information we received from School District 71. What this means is that there are 3,520 students who live within 1.6 kilometers of their school, and 68% of them are being driven. Now, next slide, please. It's probably pretty obvious to you if you spend any time around École Rob Road, for example, how incredibly congested schools are at drop-off and pick-up time at the end of the day. Next slide, please. When HASTE did a bit of surveying, they found out that the vast majority of kids felt that it was safe to walk in their neighborhoods. They didn't really think there were any really significant barriers. The most cited problem was that were traffic issues followed by unsafe drivers and crosswalk issues. At least that's the perception. That's what people reported. Next slide. Next slide. So the school travel plan of the STP represents an opportunity to teach and practice safety skills while addressing concerns about traffic dangers and personal safety. There is that perception that it's too dangerous for our kids to walk or to bike to school. I would be willing to bet that the majority of people that are here tonight walk to school. Now, less than a third of the kids do. Part of it is perception, part of it are just some kind of tough realities. What the studies seem to indicate is that if we've got more kids and people, period, walking and cycling, cars tend to slow down and we start being more respectful of each other in the use of our roadways. Next slide, please. I think those stats speak for themselves. And this was also a pretty surprising statistic to me. Thank you. So, why do we feel that it's important that kids get to school under their own power? Well, part of it is a sense of community. Just going to school with your buddies, walking back and forth or biking back and forth. I think the second thing, and I'm speaking personally now, is that I know from my own kids and now my grandchild, this world is changing. Our kids need to be a lot more competitive, a lot more resourceful in this world, and I don't think they learn that by having their parents be their main power for getting them places, for doing things for them. We want kids who are self-reliant, and I think it starts early and it can start in really just making your own way back and forth to school and hanging out with your buddies. Next slide, please. it's probably not a huge surprise that so many of our children are overweight and showing really strange statistics now about childhood diabetes and high blood pressure among children. All these kinds of things have to be a concern to all of us. Next slide, please. Now, the program that I'm talking about, TASTE, is a very, very ambitious program. I said that one of the major things that we learned was having a paid coordinator was a huge help. The second one that we learned was you do not affect change quickly or easily. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Until you get people's attitudes changing and practicing those attitudes and getting buy-in, nothing is going to happen. And I'm particularly aware of that because I've watched money being spent in very large amounts in the cycling community, for example, and building paths and all that kind of thing. And sometimes it doesn't increase the ridership. And it really concerns us because there is a limited amount of money to go around. So our feeling is that if you have an engaged community and people tell you what they actually need and want, and those are the people you're serving, then you're more likely to make good use of your dollars. And I know that you're going to have an issue coming up with Rob Road soon, and there'll be a presentation to you. And one of the alternatives that they may suggest are what are called walking school buses, where instead of kids being dropped directly off at a school, they're dropped off at some point where it's a reasonable place where they can be dropped off, and then they walk from that point, often with the help of a parent or with a volunteer of some kind. So that may make differences in terms of the dollars that you spend and how you actually view the problem. And those kinds of initiatives come out of questioning the people that are involved in them. So if you look at this plan, it's really a very comprehensive plan. There has to be a municipal stakeholder, and there has to be a lot of different people involved. Fortunately, right now, there is a task force, and Barbara, you sit in that task force, where we have wide representation. The RCMP occasionally is there, health is sometimes there, people from the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, the cycling community is there, a whole lot of different people coming together from Cumberland, from Comox, from Courtenay, and from the regional district, sharing the problem solving and thinking these items through. Next slide, please. At the school level, we expect that a committee is set up and it involves the whole school. We've really had good insight into this because now we have done bike rodeos in so many schools. We realize that there's a big appetite for kids being able to walk or bike to school. Next slide, please. So this is the larger school travel plan process. Next slide. One of the first things that happens, and it's really hard for us to do this, and it's a lot easier for a coordinator, they need to be trained in the HASTE program. They're about a couple of $1,000s to do that. And one of the first things they do is they go to target schools, and they help the school, the kids and the parents in that school, develop a plan for how they can actually get to school safely, what those routes would look like. Next slide. Families fill out surveys and they input a whole lot of information, and they've already set up all the templates and all the stuff that needs to be done to make this happen, to facilitate it. All those templates and mechanisms are available. Next slide, please. And then you do this infrastructure and traffic mapping. Next slide, please. So from that school comes up with their best routes maps, and they actually put them together, and the next slide, please, in a pamphlet information that all the kids and the parents have access to. So they now know what's available, what the possibilities are. Next slide, please. They used best practices which have been used around the province, and there are several communities in our province and a lot of communities across Canada that have already put this into effect. This particular one I think might be from Vernon, I'm not sure. But in any case, those are some of the best practices that are required to make it a little safer for kids to make it to school. Next, please. One of them is signage. And kids are involved.
James, how many more slides do you have?
Not too many. I think I've been about 8 or 9 minutes. Have I been more?
10 now.
Okay, then we'll finish up in the next 2 minutes. Thank you. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. So walking bus, school bus I was talking about earlier. Next slide. Next slide. The 3 schools have been targeted for this initiative. One in Comox, one in Courtenay, and one in Cumberland. This is what we believe the funding is required to make this happen. We believe it comes to $30,000 in total. School District 71 has already contributed or committed to contribute $10,000. The Cycling Task Force has committed to $6,000. City of Courtenay said they're willing to put $5,000 in this year and $5,000 in next year. That's a current total of $21,000. We have a shortfall of $9,000. My request from Comox is for $3,000. Next slide, please. A couple of possibilities for this. If you're willing to do it, it would be a sign of good faith, seeing that one of the schools being targeted for this program is one in Comox, would be to contribute $3,000 as a share of that project. And or a second possibility is a grant application through Healthy Communities under the Ministry of Health, and we are told that there's a very high likelihood of this being granted. We have the case coordinator says we've set the guidelines well, really good chance of that happening. She also said that she'd be willing to work with the town in filling out the procedures because she's used to doing it. So we believe that $5,000 would be available. The reason that it's of pressing importance to us right now is that the funding from School District 71 is contingent upon other partners also coming into the process and reaching as close as possible to that $30,000 target. So one way or the other, it would be very helpful to us if we could know in the next couple of weeks whether you'd be willing to contribute $3,000 or if you'd be willing to go ahead with making this grant application, because if not, we would probably ask another jurisdiction to consider that. Sorry to run over.
Okay, so you would need us to make that application? You can't make it on your own?
No, we can't. It has to be a municipality. That's how the grant structure is structured.
All right. Certainly we can take that under advisement. I would say that, one thing about the City of Courtenay's money, that came out of the casino revenues that they have, to my knowledge, and that's not something we have a source of funds for.
Yes.
So they get $600,000 a year, so they have a pot of money they can pull that from. So the CIO, I know, has mentioned that our budget is approved for this year, and we certainly don't have any funding allocation for this at this time. But perhaps that application is something we can look at.
Just for clarification, James, is
Yes.
there a requirement for any matching funds to go with that grant application?
Only in terms of what I said earlier, that School District 71 said they would go ahead with this initiative if other people partnered with them.
So we could leverage other
That's
monies?
exactly right. And not only that, but we are told that there's a high likelihood of receiving another $10,000 in September if we're able to get this initiative going. So it's really, in a way, seed money to access a lot more money.
Okay.
So, being that we wouldn't normally do something like this when we have a speaker on, maybe we should do it.
Staff can bring it back to us in 2 weeks.
But we have very sporadic meetings in June.
2 weeks we have a
sometimes,
meeting.
so do we?
Yes.
And does that give enough time?
It will be close because it has to be in before the end of the school year, but
I don't think we can approve any application until our staff look into what's required. And certainly staff will take.
Perhaps I'll talk to James tomorrow
that'd be great.
and we can see what we can do and just bring a report back.
Yeah, overall, as you know, the challenge with Cole Rob Road is that it's a French immersion school and that kids are coming from far and wide. So walking a school bus may not be the answer for someone.
We did a school rodeo there today, and there were 50 bikes in the parking lot.
That's great, and I know that it's a challenge for that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And our staff have worked with the school district, and we essentially do expect that the school district will be the lead agency in dealing with these issues. If we can facilitate with a grant application, so be it. But we have to be very careful that we don't take on roles that go beyond our core activities. So I do thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll come back in 2 weeks' time for discussion. All right, we do have another delegation, 2 more actually to go. Paul McKendrick and Eden Lindsay Bodie from the Philbrook Heritage Lodge. Welcome. You're going to update us on the
Thank you.
upcoming activities in the project.
Thank you for having us. We're here for 2 reasons. One, to update you, and 2, as part of the requirement of the town agreement that you have with the FHLPA. And Eden's here, our administrator. I just want to say publicly thank you very much for all your support. We are certainly valuing and appreciating the working relationship we have with you. It is unique, we realize, but I think, and on behalf of the board, that it's working well. We're well on our way to our summer season, which is fundraising and fun. Our first event is Kids Day in the Park, June 22nd, and we will be doing the concert series again Maureen has there a bookmark that talks about those summer events. And then we go into the 31st annual Philbert Festival, which is the BC Day long weekend from the 2nd to the 5th of August. I don't know if any of you have been down to the park since we had the showcase reception. We've taken the front facade off and discovered that decades of water damage have created a lot of surprises, not unlike the surprises we found when we went to renovate the tea house. And so we are working on that restoration program. It's been interesting, just even finding the wood to replace the kind of wood that was used in that building in the first place has created some very time-consuming problems. The window sashes, for example, are yew wood, not the easiest wood to find. Earlier this year, the town wrote a statement of significance for the Philbert Lodge and the buildings and the park area. And that was a huge benefit for us, and certainly we look to it being a huge benefit for us in the future, because it will allow us to apply to BC Heritage grants. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to continue the work on the restoration. We've only taken one small part off. It's scaffolded now and shrouded. But if it's like that in one spot, it will be like that in others. We're feeling good, though, about all the other things that are happening in the park. The park looks fabulous. Pathways will be upgraded around the washrooms this year by Parks. And I just want to give you an opportunity to ask us any questions and say
thank you
for your support.
And questions from members of council this time? No, I think obviously you're doing a great job, and I know personally I look forward to the concert series, Barbara.
And I just like to do a plug for your shop. I so really go into it, and I found all sorts of interesting things that I happened to leave gifts when I got home. I went, oh yeah.
Yeah, the collectibles and the concept work in that setting, and they work financially for us, and it's become close to our third source, sort of between that and memberships. If you don't have your memberships are on sale till June 15th, and please join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, next delegation is Derek Jensen from Acklings regarding 1651 McDonald Road. Welcome, Derek. We do have maps and some draft plans in the document.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor and Council. In the interest of brevity, I'd just like to take this time to introduce new information that we've derived in support of the land use application since my previous September 5th introductory presentation. So since September, we've been busy doing a number of things. We completed a tree survey of the entire site, identified applicable trees to be retained, those trees that will be retained where and when at all possible, and trees that will be removed. We've had an arborist, Verna Mumby, complete an assessment of all the trees on the site and provide retention and recommendations therein. We recognize in the staff report to council that there's an outstanding item with respect to a select few trees still on site. And I can assure you that arrangements for a site meeting next week with Al Fraser and Verna Mumby has been scheduled such that we can clear up that last issue next week. We have worked with the local arborist to develop a landscape plan illustrating the integration of the retention trees with those municipal trees, xeriscaping, cedar hedges, and associated perimeter fencing. We've worked with Marvin and his staff to finalize the building requirements on the proposed Strata Lot 1. And in addition, and more importantly, we've actually prepared an extensive and stormwater management plan, which proposes several best management practices to limit post-development runoff to that which existed prior to. That includes the implementation of amended soils within the boulevards, rain gardens and infiltration galleries, as well as roof leader rock pits. Further to the report from council, I'm certainly pleased to advise that Highways has accepted the stormwater management plan, and support of the development application was forwarded to staff this afternoon.
Great.
So, certainly thank you for the opportunity, and certainly welcome any questions or comments with respect to the new information or that information which was previously provided.
Okay, Derek, thank you. Questions, Maureen?
I just have one question here. I see the outstanding items regarding lighting and the locating of the pathway as recommended by the APC are not being followed through. I understand the lighting one. Could you just speak to the pathway?
Actually, I'll let Marvin speak to that. The pathway is actually municipal jurisdiction.
Oh, okay.
And
Just so I know.
In terms of the walkway?
Yeah.
The walkway question, yes. So there was concern with the APC in terms of having the walkway go to cul-de-sac 8 and having it terminate on a sidewalk on which a parking bay is proposed. We looked at it further. One of the concerns, if I recall correctly, is also grade. It's going to come down at a steep angle. The detailed grading plan is now in for part of the roadworks, and we know that we're going to be putting fill, so we're going to be elevating the road in that corner, so that will take some of the grade differential off. We also always retain the ability to put bollards in if we are getting people either on bikes or skateboards that are coming down at speed. In general, we don't want at any time somebody to come out of a walkway and come at speed and cross the street. So if a parked car is there, lesser of two evils getting hit by hitting a parked car or getting hit by a vehicle. It's not such a bad thing to have a parking area there. People who would want to directly travel, there's only about 2 houses on the south side of proposed cul-de-sac 8 that would want to cross from that location. So on the whole of it, we think it's very much in keeping with standard subdivision design.
Thank you.
just to clarify one thing, where the walkway meets the cul-de-sac road, that road is obviously a municipally driven standard road, and it will have overhead street lights. It'll be like any new subdivision road, within the municipality. The APC was concerned about the other end, essentially adjacent to the sanitary lift station, and that section of pathway which currently isn't lit and isn't necessarily part of this application. It's more of a parks, issue with respect to people walking in and around the stormwater pond and those linear asphalt walkways there.
Thank you.
Barbara?
And thank you for the report, very thorough. With the infiltration galleries, you mentioned, or someone mentioned, no use of sand or salt on the road because of the impact on the infiltration galleries. Can I read that right?
What we're going to do is implement additional infrastructure measures to mitigate excessive amounts of sand or salt or small particulate from getting into the infiltration galleries, which would otherwise compromise their ability to do what they're intended to do through the installation of additional depth in the manholes, the receiving catch basins, such that that grit can be caught prior to entering into these facilities.
Okay, great.
But,
So those roads could...
Yeah, exactly. As part of the detailed design and PLR application process, we'll be working with Public Works and planning staff to develop an operation and maintenance program for them and set that up so that Public Works staff are aware of the responsibilities and O&M requirements in order to ensure the long-term viability of these this infrastructure.
And so there is a movement now away from detention ponds to infiltration batteries? Is it?
Not necessarily, no. In this particular application, opportunities for either for above-ground storage were limited. In addition to that, given in this particular application, stormwater that does leave the site actually leaves the site, goes back down McDonald Road and actually enters another jurisdiction. So in this particular application, the intent was to mimic pre-development flows up to and including the 100-year storm, such that the town wasn't introducing any burden on an additional or an adjacent jurisdiction. So if, for example, if this development drained all through town of Comox boundary into the ocean, the standard 2-year pre-development flow pond would be applicable. In this particular application, given that the stormwater does enter into another jurisdiction, there's an additional measure of infrastructure being introduced.
All right, thank you. Any further questions? Yes, Patty?
Yeah, in the stormwater management plan, it does indicate that the private owners could do some further low-impact designs to ensure the safety of the stormwater plan there.
Yeah.
So there's a private owner piece, and as well there's the Lancaster lift station, and the fact that the notification that we went through last time in this area. I'm just wondering what you feel you can do on those two pieces.
So, first, with respect to the stormwater and let's call them private additional management practices, those management practices are in addition to what the developer is installing on behalf of the town. So any benefit afforded through these private facilities is only going to help things more. The developer, in concert with planning staff, have developed covenant language that says essentially Harold's going to go in there and he's going to put the amended soil on the lot at the time, around the proposed building site, and stockpile it as necessary to complete the balance. So Harold is working with the town to ensure that that amended soil or private utility management practices are going to be in place at the time that the house is occupied. With respect to the sanitary lift station, Harold has offered to provide the town with $25,000 towards offsetting future operation and maintenance costs for the lift station. That represents about 18 to 20% of the installation cost of the lift station. So moving forward, we will obviously be working with town staff and Marvin to ensure that there's either covenants or measures in place such that not necessarily the builder, but the end user, that being the homeowner, is aware of the local servicing agreement that you're signing.
Beyond the tax notices, for sure. Mark?
Yes, I believe in regards to the notice issue, there was a revised town notification process that was implemented as part of the development that we did up in Point Homes. So that was addressed with the town now taking the lead on that notification system.
And it's through the tax roll information that goes on each lot.
Partially.
Yeah.
As well, we wrote as soon as the subdivision was approved, we wrote to the owner of each lot in the subdivision.
Which is going to initially be the developer.
Initially the developer, but also remind them they have an obligation to disclose that to subsequent owners.
All right. Anything further? Connor?
Just in regards to the amended soil, so yes, they would be required at time of subdivision. In terms of a covenant, with the amended soils, we're quite confident once we get them on the lot and the houses are built, and we do have a process proposed to ensure that there is certification at time of building that's on the lot. After that, very little. We do not see any reasons for any ongoing covenants or anything. I mean, it's going to be really hard to take the soil off. It's going to be very tricky to term. So we think it's a very long-term set.
All right. Nothing further. Thank you for your presentation. All right, we'll move to minutes of meetings. We have the regular council meeting minutes of May 15th for approval.
Move. Second.
Approval then. All those in favor? Motion's carried. No committee reports. We do have management report for receipt at page 49.
Move receipt.
Second.
Receipt. All those in favor? Motion's carried. And the date for the kitchen organics program is fast approaching, and so there'll be some further press on that, and everyone should have received in the mail their sticker and brochure.
We're saving ours already.
Excellent.
I don't know why, but we are.
All good. All right, nothing further on that. Then we'll move on to 1651 McDonald Road, which we just heard about. This is the rezoning application, development permit application, and variance permit. And there are a series of recommendations. Firstly, that bylaw 1706, the zoning bylaw amendment, be given first and second reading.
I'll move that.
Second.
Okay, discussion at this stage. Any questions, comments? Barbara?
I just had a question on page 63, when it talks about up in the proposed areas B and C will have 1 story, and then on 72 it mentions 2 stories. The height's still the same, so I mean maybe it restricts what you can do. On 63 it says within areas B and C the number of stories shall not exceed 2. So because I know that these are the areas closest to the housing that exists, and so...
Okay, so the possible discrepancy there is what you're pointing out?
Yeah, so just for people
Planner?
choices.
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at
So
page
62,
62, referencing
63 and 72. 63,
and 72. Thank you.
yes. Right at the bottom of 72.
Within area A.
And so with D, areas B and C. Number 2 says story shall not exceed 2. And then it's,
One is doing the summary on page 63 is dealing with the principal building as opposed to accessory buildings. And the principal building setbacks in the zone start on page 71. So height within area A shall not exceed 9 meters, reading page 71, and 2 stories. And then within areas B and C, that's where 65 meters geodetic, or measuring height from 65 meters geodetic datum at 6.5 meters maximum height. And we do allow, you are correct there, we do allow the 1 story, we do allow 2 stories.
So what needs to be fixed here?
The bylaw is correct.
Just on page 63, it should say 2 stories.
No?
Yes, page 63 should say areas B and C, 6.5 meters and 2 stories.
Okay.
thank you.
And the 2 stories, the reason for that discrepancy, it's a walkout basement. You can't have a situation where, because of the way that we measure stories and everything else, you can still have a walkout basement.
Okay.
But they're going to be capped at the height measured from geodetic datum on the north side.
And just on the Lancaster Pond, I guess that will be coming back to us, what we're going to do with increasing the capacity. It's mentioned in the report that it's outside this application.
Yes.
Page 123 and 124. I guess it's just a little bit alarming too when it talks about old technology. The existing Lancaster Pond functions as intended based on the design and performance criteria of the day. And then it goes on to say that in fact it needs to be double the capacity. So I guess we always must be confident that when we move into the future that what we have will meet the future requirements. I guess times change, but if we need to double the capacity of that pond, that's quite significant.
You're saying hindsight's always perfect? All right. Anything further? Seeing none, all those in favor of first and second reading? Motion's carried. Also, we have the phase development agreement bylaw number 1750, first and second reading.
Move. Second.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. And that authorization to proceed to public hearing, and I guess we've got that no objection now, right?
Yes.
So we are authorizing to go to public hearing for these two bylaws.
Move.
Second.
Seconded, and you're indicating possibly it's the 26th of June?
Yes.
June 21st, you say?
26th. 3 Wednesdays from now. We have a committee the whole that day, and we'll be doing that, so we don't need to answer. All right, all those in favor? Motion's carried. All right, page 129, we have for receipt the Regional District Solid Waste Management Board meeting minutes of May 16th for receipt.
Move receipt.
Seconder on that? Anything to report or comment on? Or council question?
No, this was simply a special meeting to review the state of the Cannon River landfill. We had a tour there. There is some potential for the capacity there. The board has agreed to investigate that further.
Since then, I understand you adopted the plan.
Yeah, recently the plan was adopted. This would be outside of that, and if this work be possible, it would require further agreement.
Okay, great. Okay, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Under new business then, we have the public financial reporting provided to us by our Director of Finance. Two recommendations that we received the draft statement of financial information, continuity of development cost charges, strategic community investment fund report, and permissive exemption bylaw effect report, all regarding 2012.
So I'll move receipt.
Okay, second on that? Second. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Any questions on any of those reports?
Just like to point out that my expenses were the lowest this time. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll report it.
When the front page, right? Well, it was front page when they were the highest one.
But it doesn't include this past weekend, which I think would put me to the lowest expenses.
Yeah, no, that's next year.
All right.
Exist.
So that's, we received that, and now we're looking for an approval of the draft statement of financial information.
Move approval.
Second.
Those in favor? Motion's carried. This will all be included within our annual report, which is will be brought forward to us in 2-3 weeks.
Yes.
Okay. 2 weeks, you say?
2 to 3 weeks, probably 3.
Okay, fair enough. But it has to be done before the end of June anyway.
Yes, it does.
All right, so then we'll move on to my page here. Those two, okay, carbon offset savings report. We invested to save energy at page 145, and we're just asked to be receiving this.
Move receipt.
Second.
Received that, all those in favor? Motion's carried, and this is just to show that we acquired the carbon offsets as approved. The balance of funds will be accrued for various local projects within our town, including the roof on the lower section of the stair and other things as we go forward.
And those works were completed yesterday.
I thought they were working on that. So there you go.
Approval after the fact. Nice.
Get her done. Good investment. Okay, so we received that, I believe? Yep. All right, and also with respect to the next item, use of grant matching funds, the rec department proceeded with painting the community center gym and resurfacing the gym floor at a cost of $48,300.
Move receipt.
Second.
Moving recommendation.
Recommendation.
Yeah. So on that, of course, it's noted that we did apply for funding assistance from the Federal Community Recreation Infrastructure Program. We're unsuccessful, however. We have enough funds to do the work as shown here. And we're looking at approval for that. So those in favor? Motion's carried. And moving right along, in terms of recreation projects, the Energy Park Tennis Court project is being brought back to us with a couple recommendations, and perhaps before we get to that, I'll just get our CEO just to talk briefly about that on behalf of staff.
Thank you, Your Worship. As noted in the report, we've found a tender on this project. The tender has come in higher than originally budgeted for, and we've provided a few options as to where we can go from here. Our recommendation is still to proceed with this project and to accomplish that by reducing the scope somewhat of the project by removing the landscaping portion of the budget for this year and reallocating the $150,000 that was also part of another federal grant infrastructure application program in Marine Park that we had allocated, a portion of which was to pave the parking lot, which you see has been completed today. And the other works were going to be the beautification along the western edge of the park. Since we weren't successful with that grant application, I'm suggesting using that money to complete this tennis court project. And I think the last part is that we've included a fairly healthy contingency because we are uncertain of what we may find once we begin the excavation of the existing tennis court plans.
Okay. Questions from council? Ken?
So are you suggesting that should we not find the hidden problems underneath there, there could be some money left over?
Yes, we're thinking very positively.
Although cautiously.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Peter and Patty.
Yes, looking at this issue, this is a lot of money. However, and as a taxpayer, I'm sure people looking at just at the figures would say that's a lot of money. However, the courts are 30 years old. We don't anticipate a replacement for anything for another 30 years, an investment that's a signature piece of our community down there. Furthermore, I really appreciate the town staff laying out the three options, and the loss of the grant would be, we may not be able to apply or let alone get a grant like that again. It is a lot of money, but I think we have to proceed with it, and I'm personally going to vote in favor of it.
Okay, we'll see what we get to on the motion, Sir Patty.
Just curious on the deferral of the landscaping portion, would that's just anticipated that staff would perhaps budget for that next year?
Yes, we're looking at potentially budgeting it for next year, considering maybe doing it with our own staff and an incremental approach, or perhaps if what we uncover when the excavation isn't as bad as it seems, we can then revisit the notion of bringing back the landscaping portion of the budget.
Okay, I know the tennis club is very much interested in seeing this proceed, and certainly will work with the town as required. Timings on this project, just to refresh our memory?
If council is supportive of the staff recommendation, I think, Shelley, you are looking at awarding as soon as possible with construction to begin.
Yeah, probably within 2-3-week period to get started. I believe the contractor is available to go. He's just waiting on the motion, and we'll award it and get things started.
And you'll be communicating with the tennis club and rec department, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so are you ready to make the motions as set out in the agenda, or other motions?
Should we move both recommendations at the same time, or should we do one at a time?
I think we need to do them separately.
Okay. I'll move the recommendation.
Second. Not. Those in favor? Motion's carried. And seconded.
Second recommendation too.
See with the tender award to Leighton Contract.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. And thank you, staff. I know it's always tricky when you go to tender on these kinds of projects, and hopefully we'll be able to get it done within the amount shown. And maybe even some good news on the contingency front. Okay, so I think we just have the one item of correspondence at page 155, motion to receive the letter from Mayor Barrett of Cumberland.
Move receipt.
Second.
Receive then. We'll vote on receive and then further discussion. All in favor? Motion's carried.
And I just asked if we could refer this to staff for consideration in the town.
Motion to receive and refer to staff for a report.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I know there was at least one resident who was very much interested in this issue, saw me a few weeks ago, so there is some interest there, and I know it's happening in other parts of the province. There's great buzz about it.
Don't be like that.
All those in favor? Motion's carried. All right, so reports from members of council. We'll start with Councillor McKinnon.
Yes, I attended my Aunt Margaret's 90th birthday. I attended the water pollution control tour of the Brent Road facility with a number of other councillors, way back when it seems, and impressive tour, and I know we all got a lot out of it, and it's an amazing facility. I attended the Highland PAC meeting to explain how the Town of Comox Youth Awards work. That was well received by the PAC there. Hosted 3 Danish female girl basketball players at our house for 3 days visiting the valley, and the reason I bring that up is that I kudos to the schools that do arrange things like that, because it is an economic benefit to the town and the community as well, with the hotels and restaurants, etc., for visiting groups like that. Attended Better at Home key stakeholders meeting for Seniors Care Forum at the Comox Rep, along with Councillor Fletcher. The Highland Grad represented the mayor in the car parade, which was well received by the grads again, and thanks to the council for supporting the car parade. My Volkswagen van was denied again access to go as a vintage car, and I took that with a grain of salt. The Philbert Festival volunteer sign-up on Sunday attended that. It was well received there, and we do get great support from our community in that regard. And regarding nautical days, since I won't be here on nautical days this year out of the country, I've been signed up or recruited to work with the Comox Kiwanis Club for the Soapbox Derby down on Knoll. And I want to say, Mayor Ives, if you want a kit, you can get them from the Kiwanis Club or any other council member. So we'll be helping out. That's a week prior to nautical days, and look forward to that yearly event, which is well received by the community.
I thought you were going to enter your VW. Well, you have to push that too?
That could happen. That's illegal to push.
Councillor Price?
Yes, I attended the Friends of Comox Lazo Reserve AGM. I also did the tour of the Pollution Control Centre, and there is no odour. It was amazing. And it's a long time since I've been, and it was certainly a lot sweeter. And Bike to Work Week, I helped man the celebration station run by the Cycling Task Force, 6 o'clock in the morning, torrential rain. And yeah, there were cyclists, but they didn't want to stop. They just wanted to get where they were going. I attended the food roundtable, and there is a conference coming up on food a week on Friday. I've got details if anyone's interested. And I also went to FCM, the first time I've ever been, and I was very impressed that we can have national leaders talking to us, and they had some very good tours. I did the housing and the urban farming, both of which gave a lot of ideas and totally inspiring about what's happening there and what you can grow in a city is amazing. And the wonderful things that have been done with getting people into homes and the support network and the housing first philosophy that's proven successful.
Thank you. Councillor Swift?
Okay, I was away prior to the FCM, but I did attend the FCM, and like Barbara Price, it's my first one, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Brutal schedule, from 7 in the morning onwards, but I did go to the Rethinking Waste of Metro Vancouver, and it just sort of reaffirms that we're really on the right track with our organics program, and I'm really pleased that we're doing that. We also visited the emergency management study tour out at ECOM, and that was interesting. And then a myriad of workshops on infrastructure and so on, and an interesting talk from Angus Reid in Posters, and then a question and answers time with Carol Taylor and Angus Reid and some others. So it was busy, but really interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you. Since we last met, I attended the Colby Road public hearing, the special meeting of the Solid Waste Board, which we've seen the minutes here this evening, Cumberland Empire Days. It's always fun to be out there. Sewage treatment plant tour, as mentioned, the Better at Home Forum. This is just an initiative that will be in the Valley, a provincial initiative. They will provide $200,000 to the Valley per year for the next 3 years, just to further support seniors at home. So anything we can do on that is a good thing. Attended the CBRD board meeting on May 28th, and on May 30th attended the Nautical Days meeting with our coordinator down at the Silver Tea House. It's a lovely place to have a meeting if you need to on a wet, stormy afternoon. And I did bike there, because that was a work initiative, and it was Bike Work Week. On behalf of Councillor Price, I attended the Philbrook Heritage Lodge and Park monthly board meeting that day. And as you've heard, everything is going very well, except for the 2 rotting boards in the building. And last Sunday afternoon, I attended the Port Augusta Sea Cadets annual ceremonial review on behalf of Mayor Ives, and was allowed to present the top phase cadet award, and a lovely young lady, of which there's very few in the Sea Cadets, I can tell you, but she was the recipient of that award, and was also the top marksman of the year, and her name is Oressa Mathers-Sear. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penny.
Well, going last is always good because you get reminded of all the things you forgot to write down. So Colby Road public hearing was one. I also attended FCM, and one of the things that came out of that was seeing the federal minister in charge of infrastructure talking about opening up some of the ways that we can spend infrastructure grant money. He didn't give us specifics, but there's going to be a lot more areas that we can use the grant money that we get. So I think that should be really good for our community. This morning I got to attend court, and although, because I was supposed to be a witness to a lady that had left some recycling on our front, and she didn't show up, so I didn't actually have to do anything, but I did spend 2 hours there, so I thought I'd give some kudos for that. I also went on a shellfish tour. John Watson, or the economic development guys, touched on this briefly. We have a gentleman who's bringing some ocean tours that are going to take people around to shellfish and some of the farming and give some information on that. And he can also, his boat can pull right up to the end of the spit, so he can stop and do like picnic lunches or lunches. He can take about, it's a 40-foot boat, so it's been built specifically for touring. So it's kind of a first of its kind. So he wanted to take us out to see what we thought of whether there was any legs to this or not. He then took his brochures down to the Discovery Center for the Shellfish Festival, thinking it would be a good fit, and he sold over half of them in the first day. So really good. The tour appears that it's going to be a lot of good information, and just a nice way to get some people out on the water, and a real good draw to get people into our town. So that was really interesting. It's nice to see people taking that kind of initiative. The other thing that we did last night is the BIA has been working diligently to try and get more people into town. It came to their attention that they get over 2,000 boaters down to our marina, so they put a coupon package together for boaters, and we spent what we thought would be an hour's time turned into about 3.5 hours stuffing envelopes with a bunch of coupons from all the merchants up on the street and handing them to the, so as the boaters come in, they'll be given one of these envelopes full of discounts and coupons and advertisement for local shops up on the street. So we're hoping that'll work, and if it does, then we'd look to expand that program to other than just boaters. So that's sort of the kickoff. So that's what I've been doing.
Ken, who gives the coupons to them?
Merchants up on the street.
No, down the
Oh,
boat.
they're at the harbor.
So the harbor master.
Harbor master has it, yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
All right, just report on my goings on the last few weeks. The public hearing, Colby Road, Empire Days Parade and Launch. It was the 125th year of the Empire Days. And one of the May Queens from 1936 was in attendance, so that was quite remarkable. There are also 5 consular officials in attendance from Italy, Ukraine, Taiwan, and a couple others I can't remember at the moment. But they had good representation of the international community. I participated in the Boys and Girls Comox Valley Golf Tournament, charity tournament. It raised $42,000, and I believe you were there.
Shouldn't have been. I wasn't last after all.
I also participated in several things to do with the base. First of all, the Comox Air Show media launch, of course, the official announcement of the show coming up here in the middle of August. And they also had that week the Honorary Colonels Conference here. So there was a reception at the Discovery Center. There was roughly 60 to 65 Honorary Colonels from the Air Force bases across Canada, including the Honorary Colonel for the Air Force, which is Senator Pamela Wallin. And Air Marshal Blondin was in attendance as well. He's the Chief of the Air Force. And there was a mess dinner that I attended, and the guest speaker for that was Canada's newest astronaut. He'll be the one who will take over from Commander Hatfield. His name is Major Jeremy Hansen. And like Commander Hatfield, you can follow Jeremy on Twitter by going to @astro_Jeremy. So there you go. It's a new age and lots of great discussion there. Actually, at the mess dinner, I was sitting on the other side of me were Honorary Colonels from Trenton, which is along with Belleville, Summerside community in Comox Valley. So lots of neat things that are going on there. The Boomer Ride is coming up next weekend, on the 14th, 15th, so there's a photo op for that, and certainly there's still an opportunity to make pledges for your favorite mayor who's in that, or other riders, should you see fit, but just go boomerslegacy.com and you can find it. Bike to Work Week, speaking of biking, I try to stay on my bike as much as possible in anticipation of that. I did bike to work twice, got a little wet both times, but thankfully Patty was there with a towel as I came by. And then I biked several times during the FCM, including a bike tour that both the CIO and I went on, called Urbanism Bike Tour. And at the beginning of it, he tried to let the air out of my tires, so I couldn't go as faster than him. But I caught him just in time, and we went through all the bike lanes they have in Vancouver, which were very remarkable, and saw many of the interesting housing projects. Among other things at FCM, the plenary sessions were excellent. As somebody mentioned, the Angus Reid discussion. There was also a debate on the issue of be it resolved that local governments have enough resources and ability already to take care of infrastructure. So those are interesting points of view on both sides of it, and left me thinking that yes, we do have many tools, and we're doing the best we can, but of course we can use more help. So a very good discussion there. And I had the opportunity at a sort of workshop session to talk a bit briefly about the efforts that we've made with our newsletter that goes out with the tax notice. And of course, they're talking about their advocacy levels at a higher level, but said at the local level, that's an effort that we are making to show taxpayers what we're doing with their money, and in comparison to other expenses. So that was well received. Those are the highlights for the UBCM, and since I've been back, a couple things. Did a photo op out at the waste management site for the organics collection pile that they've started already. And not very exciting, it's just a pile with a cover on it, but it'll be in the paper. And more to follow on that with lots more information. And then this afternoon, I participated in an annual Comox Valley Chamber Community Representatives meeting where a number of community organizations and leaders were there in attendance just to provide a State of the Union or State of the Organization address, which I, of course, provided on behalf of the town. So that was well received, and that's my report on that. No late items. Any media questions at this time? There's no members of the public here left, and I guess we're going to all the series. We do have an in-camera meeting, so motion to go in camera under Section 90 of the Community Charter. Move. In favor? Motion is carried. And we'll have a brief adjournment while that's really clears.
I think we could beep on it.